The studio lights burned bright, the audience buzzed with excitement, and the cameras rolled. It was supposed to be another typical night on late-night television, a celebrity banter, light humor, and a few viral moments. But no one in the room could have predicted that what began as a playful exchange between Will Smith and talk show host John Kennedy would turn into one of the most powerful, emotional moments ever broadcast live. From the moment Will walked on stage, his trademark charisma filled the air. Dressed in a sleek black suit and flashing that familiar grin, he owned the stage the way only Will Smith could. The crowd roared as he waved and greeted John Kennedy, who was known for his calm demeanor and sharp wit. The two had been friends for years, but tonight, there was a strange tension between them, a subtle, but unmistakable. As the laughter died down and the interview began, things took an unexpected turn. Kennedy started with light-hearted questions about Will's latest film, his family, and his music. Will responded smoothly, but then, in an apparent attempt to tease his host, he shifted gears. With a mischievous smile, Will leaned in and said, "You know, John, you've been sitting behind that desk for years asking people questions, but what have you actually done that's worth talking about?" The audience chuckled, unsure whether to laugh or gasp. It seemed like harmless fun, a celebrity poking at a friend. But Kennedy's eyes told a different story. Behind the practiced smile, a flicker of hurt appeared and then disappeared just as quickly. For a brief second, the air in the studio grew heavy. The laughter faded into an awkward silence. But John Kennedy didn't retaliate. He didn't try to match Will's energy or make a sharp comeback. Instead, he took a slow breath, leaned forward, and began to speak in a calm, measured tone that immediately drew everyone in. "You're right, Will," he said quietly. "I'm not a movie star. I don't have millions of fans or awards. But every person sitting at home tonight are the teachers, the single parents, the people working 2 jobs to take care of their families. They're living stories that might never make the news, but they matter. They really matter." The audience went still. Will's smile faded as he listened. Kennedy continued, his voice steady but filled with emotion. "You see, fame isn't the only kind of success. Sometimes, it's about showing up even when no one's watching. My mom worked 3 jobs just so I could go to school. She never stood on a red carpet, but she was a star in her own way. People like her are the reason I do what I do. I may not have the spotlight, but I get to share stories that remind people they're not invisible." A lump formed in Will's throat. You could see it on his face, that mix of surprise and respect that no acting could fake. The studio audience, once buzzing with laughter, now sat in absolute silence. Even the production crew paused behind the cameras, mesmerized by the authenticity of the moment. Will leaned back in his chair, his eyes softening. "Man," he said quietly, "I didn't mean it like that. You really put things into perspective." John smiled, that same humble, quiet smile that made him one of the most respected hosts on television. "I know you didn't," he replied gently. "Sometimes we all need to be reminded that worth isn't measured by applause, it's measured by impact." The audience erupted into applause, not the kind that fades quickly, but the kind that lingers, the kind that comes from being deeply moved. Even Will stood up, walked across the stage, and pulled Kennedy into a hug. The two men stood there for a long moment, the audience on their feet, cheering. Later, clips of that exchange flooded social media. Millions of viewers shared it, calling it the moment that silenced Will Smith. But those who truly watched knew it wasn't about embarrassment or revenge. It was about humility, perspective, and humanity. A reminder that behind every spotlight, there's a story that deserves to be heard. In the days that followed, Will posted a heartfelt message on his Instagram. "John Kennedy reminded me that real power isn't in fame or fortune, it's in empathy. That moment changed me." John Kennedy never spoke much about it afterward. He didn't need to. The world had already heard his message loud and clear. And that night, under the blinding lights of a talk show stage, something extraordinary happened. Not a scandal, not a viral stunt, but a human moment. A moment that reminded millions watching that dignity, kindness, and truth will always outshine ego. Because sometimes, the most powerful words are not the ones that make us laugh, but the ones that make us pause and see ourselves a little more clearly. That night, John Kennedy didn't just leave Will Smith speechless. He left the world inspired.